Admiral Catherine Moore stood alone on the bridge of her ship, the Endeavour. Her gray hair was tied back in a tight bun, and her blue eyes watched the massive view screen in front of her. What she saw made her stomach tight, but her face showed nothing. She had learned long ago to hide her fear. The Veluxy Armada filled the screen. There were so many ships that they looked like a cloud of metal stretching across space. Catherine had counted them herself. 3,217 warships. Each one was bigger than any human vessel. Each one carried weapons that could turn a city into dust in seconds. Behind her, the young Lieutenant Daniel Perry was breathing too fast. She could hear him trying to calm himself. He was only 26 years old, fresh from the academy. This was his first real assignment. Catherine felt sorry for him. No young officer should have to face something like this on their first mission. "Admiral," Daniel said, his voice shaking slightly, "their fleet commander wants to talk to you." Catherine nodded slowly. "Put him on screen." The image changed. Instead of the endless field of enemy ships, she now saw the face of High Commander Zeth Khan. He was reptilian, with blue-green scales that shimmered under the lights of his bridge. He had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face, and when he spoke, she could see rows of small, sharp teeth. "Human leader," Zeth Khan said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "I am High Commander Zeth Khan of the Veluxy Dominion. I have come to claim your world for my people." Catherine clasped her hands behind her back. "I am Admiral Catherine Moore of the United Earth Defense Force. I'm afraid I can't let you do that." Zeth Khan's mandibles clicked together rapidly. Catherine had studied Veluxy behavior for years. She knew that sound meant he was laughing at her. "You cannot let me?" He repeated. "Human, do you understand what you are facing? I have brought 3,000 warships to your little planet. Each one has enough firepower to crack a moon in half. And what do you have?" He leaned forward, his 4 eyes blinking one after another. "My sensors show me 47 ships. 47. Some of them are so old I'm surprised they still function. Your weapons are weak. Your shields are thin. You have nothing." Catherine allowed a small smile to cross her face. "We have what we need." "Arrogance," Zeth Khan spat. "Your species is known for it. The traders told us about you. They said you were young, foolish, and far too proud for such a weak civilization. I see they were correct." "The traders say many things," Catherine replied calmly. "Let me tell you what will happen, human." Zeth Khan settled back in his command chair. "In 1 hour, my fleet will advance. We will destroy your pathetic ships in the first volley. Then we will move to your planet. We will burn your cities. We will take your people as slaves. Your civilization will end today." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But I am not without mercy. Surrender now. Order your ships to power down their weapons. If you do this, I will allow some of your kind to live. They will serve the Dominion as workers. It is a better fate than extinction." Catherine stared at him for a long moment. Behind her, she could feel her bridge crew holding their breath. They were all scared. They had every right to be. The math was simple and terrible. 47 ships against 3,000. It was not a battle. It was a slaughter waiting to happen. But Catherine knew something that Zeth Khan did not. "High Commander," she said slowly, "I appreciate your offer, but I must decline. Humanity does not surrender. We never have. We never will." Zeth Khan's scales rippled with what might have been surprise. "You choose death? For your entire species? Over simple pride?" "I choose to defend my home," Catherine said. "Whatever the cost." "Then you are a fool." Zeth Khan's voice hardened. 1 hour, human. Use that time to say goodbye to your world." The screen went dark. For a moment, no one on the bridge spoke. Catherine could hear the soft hum of the ship's systems, the quiet beeping of computer consoles. Normal sounds. Peaceful sounds. They seemed wrong somehow, given what was coming. Daniel Perry stepped closer to her. His face was pale, and his hands were trembling. "Admiral, what do we do? We can't fight them." "It's impossible." Catherine turned to look at him. She put a hand on his shoulder and squeezed gently. "Lieutenant, do you trust me?" "Yes, ma'am." "Of course. Then trust me when I tell you that everything is going exactly as planned." Daniel's eyes widened. "Planned?" "Admiral, they have 3,000 ships. We have 47. What plan could possibly work against those odds?" Catherine smiled. It was a real smile this time, not the cold one she had shown the Veluxi commander. "The Veluxi have been scanning our fleet for 6 hours. They have counted every ship. They have measured every weapon. They have analyzed every system we have. Yes, ma'am. They made one mistake." Catherine walked to the tactical console where Commander Lisa Grant was monitoring the sensor feeds. They assumed that what they could see was all there was to see. Lisa looked up at the Admiral. Unlike Daniel, she was not scared. She had been with Catherine for 15 years. She knew things that younger officers did not. "Ghost Fleet is standing by," Lisa said quietly. "All 17 battle groups report ready status." Catherine nodded. "Time to intercept." "On your command, they can be here in 4 minutes." Daniel looked between the two women, confusion clear on his face. "Ghost Fleet? Admiral, what is she talking about?" "What Ghost Fleet?" Catherine turned to face him. "Lieutenant Perry, for the past 60 years, humanity has been building 2 fleets. The first fleet is the one you know, the one the Veluxi have been scanning. 47 ships, just like they said. Old, weak, barely functional." She paused. "The second fleet has been hidden. Hidden so well that no sensor in the galaxy can find it. We call it the Ghost Fleet. And right now, it is waiting in the darkness between the planets, ready to remind the Veluxi why they should never have come to our home." Daniel's mouth fell open. "How many ships?" Catherine's smile grew wider. "Enough." She turned back to the view screen, where the Veluxi armada waited like a swarm of hungry insects. "The Veluxi think they know what humanity is," she said softly. "They think we are weak. They think we are prey. They are about to learn how wrong they are." The clock on the wall counted down. 59 minutes until the enemy advanced. 59 minutes until the truth would be revealed. Catherine Moore stood tall and waited for the moment that would change the galaxy forever. 60 years before the Veluxi came to Earth, humanity had no idea that aliens existed. People lived their normal lives. They went to work. They raised their families. They worried about small things like paying bills and fixing broken cars. The universe beyond their planet was just a beautiful mystery filled with distant stars. Then the traders arrived. They came without warning. One day, the sky was empty. The next day, a massive silver ship hung above the United Nations building in New York. It did not attack. It did not make demands. It simply waited. For 3 days, the world held its breath. Governments argued about what to do. Scientists studied the ship with every instrument they had. Religious leaders prayed for guidance. Ordinary people stared at their television screens and wondered if life would ever be normal again. On the 4th day, the traders sent a message. They wanted to talk. The meeting took place in a small room inside the UN building. On one side sat 5 human representatives, chosen from different countries. On the other side sat a single trader. It was a strange creature, tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. It had no mouth that humans could see, but somehow it spoke in a soft, musical voice. "We are the traders," it said. "We travel between stars. We buy and sell goods and information. We have done this for 10,000 of your years." The humans listened in silence. Everything they thought they knew about the universe was changing with every word. "We have come to your world with a gift," the trader continued. "The gift of knowledge. You are not alone in the galaxy. There are thousands of species among the stars. Some are peaceful. Some are not. You must understand the truth of your situation if you wish to survive." One of the human representatives, a woman named Dr. Patricia Cole, leaned forward. "What truth? What situation?" The trader's large eyes seemed to grow sad. "The galaxy is not a kind place. The strong take from the weak. Empires rise and fall. Species that cannot defend themselves are conquered, enslaved, or destroyed. This is the way it has always been." The room grew very quiet. "Your species is young," the trader said. "You have only just learned to leave your planet. In the eyes of the older civilizations, you are children, weak children, easy prey. Are you here to conquer us?" Another representative asked. His voice was tight with fear. "No, we are traders. We do not conquer. We survive by being useful to everyone and threatening to no one." The trader paused. "But others will come. Others who are not so peaceful. When they find your world, they will take everything you have." Dr. Cole swallowed hard. "What can we do? How do we protect ourselves?" The trader was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was barely above a whisper. "Hide your strength. Let them see weakness. Build your true power in the shadows, where no one can find it. The moment the galaxy understands what you truly are, the great empires will unite against you. You must be ready before that day comes." The meeting ended soon after. The traders left Earth, taking with them samples of human art and music in exchange for basic information about faster-than-light travel. It was a fair trade, they said. A beginning. But their warning stayed with humanity forever. In the years that followed, the governments of Earth came together like never before. Old enemies became allies. Borders that had divided nations for centuries became meaningless. For the first time in history, humanity was truly united. They had no choice. The galaxy was watching. And the galaxy was hungry. The plan was simple in concept, but massive in execution. Humanity would build 2 fleets. The first fleet would be visible. It would grow slowly, making normal progress for a young civilization. These ships would be adequate but unremarkable. They would visit other species, conduct trade, and allow themselves to be scanned by every curious sensor. This fleet was the mask that humanity would show to the universe. The second fleet would be different. It would be built in secret, hidden from every eye and every sensor. This fleet would carry humanity's true strength, its real technology, its actual power. It would wait in the darkness until the day it was needed. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, construction began. Thousands of workers traveled to secret facilities carved into the hearts of massive rocks. They built shipyards that no telescope could see. They developed sensor-blocking technology that took 30 years to perfect. They created weapons that used principles no other species had ever discovered. Generation after generation worked on the project. Children grew up knowing they were part of something important, something that would determine the fate of their entire species. They lived their lives in secret. They raised their families in hidden stations. They died knowing that their children would continue the work. Admiral Catherine Moore's grandmother had been one of those workers. Her mother had commanded one of the first Ghost Fleet battleships. Catherine herself had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. She understood the weight of what she carried. 60 years of sacrifice. Millions of lives dedicated to a single purpose. Every person who had ever worked on the Ghost Fleet had done so knowing they might never see it used. They had built it anyway, because the alternative was too terrible to accept. Now, standing on the bridge of the Endeavor, Catherine watched the Veluxy Armada and felt the presence of all those who had come before her. They were counting on her. Every worker, every engineer, every soldier who had given their life to this project was watching through her eyes. She would not let them down. Commander Lisa Grant approached her quietly. Admiral, the countdown shows 40 minutes until the Veluxy advance. Catherine nodded. Is everything in position? Yes, ma'am. All 17 battle groups are holding at their designated coordinates. The sensor scattering fields are still active. The Veluxy have no idea they are there. Good. Catherine turned to look at the view screen. The enemy fleet still hung in space like a cloud of death. When I give the order, I want every field dropped simultaneously. I want them to see everything at once. I want them to understand exactly how badly they have miscalculated. Lisa smiled grimly. It will be my pleasure, Admiral. Across the solar system, 847 capital ships waited in silence. They had no lights, no active sensors, no emissions of any kind. They were ghosts floating in the eternal darkness, invisible to every form of detection that other species had ever developed. Their crews sat at their stations, ready for the order that would reveal them to the universe. Many of them had trained for this moment their entire lives. They had run countless simulations, practiced endless drills, prepared for a battle that might never come. Now it was here. The enemy had arrived, and humanity's true strength was about to step out of the shadows. In his cabin aboard the battleship Sovereign, Captain Marcus Wells read through his final mission briefing. He was 42 years old, with dark skin and calm brown eyes. He had commanded the Sovereign for 8 years, but no one outside the Ghost Fleet had ever heard of him or his ship. That was about to change. His executive officer, Commander Jennifer Hayes, entered the cabin. Captain, we just received word from the Endeavor. Admiral Moore has confirmed the timeline. We reveal in 38 minutes. Marcus set down his tablet. How's the crew? Ready, sir? Nervous but ready. They know what's at stake. Marcus stood and walked to the small window in his cabin. Outside, there was only darkness. The Sovereign floated in the shadow of a massive asteroid, completely invisible to the Veluxy sensors sweeping the system. 60 years, he said quietly. 3 generations built this fleet. 3 generations kept this secret. And now it all comes down to the next few hours. Jennifer nodded. We won't let them down, sir. Marcus turned to face her. His expression was calm, but his eyes held the fire of a man ready to fight for everything he loved. No, he said. We won't. High Commander Zethkon sat alone in his private quarters aboard the Eternal Conquest. The lights were dim, and the only sound was the soft hum of the ship's engines. Outside, somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity's Ghost Fleet waited in silence. He had sent his officers away. He needed time to think, time to understand how everything had gone so wrong. For 300 years, the Veluxy Dominion had been the dominant power in the region of space. They had conquered 17 species, absorbed entire civilizations, built an empire that stretched across dozens of star systems. No one had ever been able to stand against them. And now this. A species so young they had barely left their home planet. A species that every report described as primitive and weak. A species that had somehow hidden an entire military force for 60 years without anyone noticing. Zethkon picked up a data tablet and looked at the analysis his officers had prepared. 847 human capital ships. Over 3,000 support vessels. Weapons that operated on principles Veluxy scientists could not explain. Engine systems that seemed to violate known physics. The humans had not just hidden their fleet. They had developed technology that exceeded anything in the galaxy's known arsenal. In 60 years, they had surpassed civilizations that had been traveling between stars for millennia. How was that possible? A soft chime indicated someone at his door. Zefkan sighed. "Enter." Catherall stepped inside. The young officer looked troubled, his scales shifting color in a way that showed his uncertainty. "High Commander, the hour is almost over. Admiral Moore is requesting a response." "I know." Zefkan set down the tablet. "Tell me, Catherall, if you were in my position, what would you do?" The younger Veluxi hesitated. It was not often that a commander asked a subordinate for advice on such matters. But Zefkan was tired of pretending he had all the answers. "High Commander, Catherall took a deep breath. "I would surrender. Explain." "The numbers do not lie, sir. The humans have more ships than we do. Their technology is superior. If we fight, we will be destroyed. All 3,000 crews, gone." Catherall's voice grew firmer. "My mate is pregnant with our first child. I would very much like to meet that child." Zefkan nodded slowly. "And what of honor? What of the pride of the Dominion?" "With respect, sir, honor means nothing if we are all dead. The Dominion will survive a defeat. It will not survive the loss of its entire invasion fleet." The older commander was silent for a long moment. He thought about his own family back on the homeworld. His mate of 40 years. His children and grandchildren. They were expecting him to return victorious, bringing glory and riches from another conquered world. Instead, he would return with nothing. A defeated commander who had been beaten by a species of children. But he would return. He would see his family again. He would have the chance to learn from this failure and grow stronger. The alternative was to die in the cold darkness of space, surrounded by the wreckage of his fleet. His family would receive word that he had fallen in battle. His name would be remembered as a fool who threw away his entire command out of pride. "You are wise for your age, Catherall," Zefkan said finally. "Wiser than I was when I was young." He stood and walked to his communication console. His fingers hovered over the controls for a moment. Once he did this, there was no going back. The entire galaxy would know that the Veluxi Dominion had been defeated by humanity, but they would also know that humanity was not to be challenged. That message might save more lives than this battle would end. Zefkan pressed the button. On the bridge of the Endeavor, Admiral Catherine Moore watched as the communication request came through. Around her, officers held their breath. This was the moment. Everything they had worked for, everything their families had sacrificed, came down to the next few minutes. "Put him through," Catherine said. High Commander Zefkan's face appeared on the screen. He looked older somehow, as if the past hour had aged him by years. His scales were dull, and his 4 eyes held none of the arrogance they had shown before. "Admiral Moore," he said. His voice was heavy with resignation. "I have considered your offer." Catherine nodded but said nothing. She would let him speak at his own pace. "My entire life I have served the Dominion," Zefkan continued. "I have conquered worlds. I have crushed civilizations. I have never known defeat. I believed that the Veluxi were the strongest species in the galaxy, that no one could stand against us." He paused. "I was wrong." The admission seemed to cost him something. His scales rippled with emotion that Catherine could not quite identify. "Your species has shown me something I did not think possible. You have hidden your true strength for 60 years. You have developed technology that exceeds our own. You have prepared for this moment while we grew comfortable in our power." Zefkan straightened in his chair, regaining some of his dignity. "I am ordering my fleet to stand down. We will power down our weapons and lower our shields. We accept your terms, Admiral Moore." A murmur ran through the bridge of the Endeavor. Officers exchanged glances of disbelief and relief. They had won. Against all apparent odds, they had won without firing a single shot. Catherine allowed herself a small smile. "High Commander, you have made a wise decision. I give you my word that your crews will be treated fairly. No one will be harmed unless they resist." "I will hold you to that word, Admiral." Zethkan's eyes narrowed slightly. "But I must ask you something. Why? Why did you prepare for this? How did you know we would come?" Catherine considered the question carefully. "We did not know it would be you specifically, but we knew someone would come. The traders taught us that lesson when they first visited our world. The galaxy is full of species like yours, High Commander. Species that take what they want from those too weak to resist." She leaned forward. "Humanity decided that we would not be weak. We would not be victims. We understood that the only way to survive in this galaxy was to be strong enough that no one would dare attack us. So we built our strength in secret, where no one could see it. We waited, we prepared. And when you came to our door with 3,000 warships, we were ready." Zethkan was silent for a moment. "You are a dangerous species, Admiral." "We are a survivor species," Catherine corrected. "There is a difference. We do not seek conflict. We do not want to conquer or destroy. But we will never let ourselves be conquered or destroyed. That is the lesson of humanity, High Commander. Learn it well." The Veluxy commander nodded slowly. "I believe I will." Over the next several hours, the surrender proceeded smoothly. Veluxy warships powered down their weapons one by one. Human vessels moved into position around them, ready to respond if anyone changed their mind. But no one did. The crews of the Dominion fleet were tired and shaken. They had expected an easy victory. Instead, they had received the shock of their lives. Admiral Moore watched the process from her bridge, monitoring reports from ships throughout the system. The Ghost Fleet had performed exactly as planned. 60 years of preparation had paid off in a single day. Lieutenant Daniel Perry approached her chair. The young officer looked different now. The fear that had filled his eyes earlier was gone, replaced by something like awe. "Admiral, I have to ask, did you ever doubt? When you were facing down their entire fleet with just 47 ships, did you ever worry that the plan might fail?" Catherine smiled. "Every moment, Lieutenant. Every single moment. But doubt does not excuse inaction. We had a job to do, and we did it. That is what being a soldier means. The galaxy will never look at humanity the same way again. No, they will not." Catherine looked at the view screen, where thousands of Veluxy ships hung motionless in space. "And that is exactly what we wanted. Today, we showed the universe that humanity is not prey. We are not victims. We are not weak." She stood and straightened her uniform. "Today, humanity announced itself to the galaxy, and the galaxy will never forget." Across the solar system, human crews celebrated quietly. They had trained for years, some of them for their entire lives, for a battle that lasted only hours. Many of them had expected to die today. Instead, they had witnessed the greatest bluff in human history become reality. The Ghost Fleet had stepped out of the shadows, and the universe would never be the same. The countdown reached 0. The Veluxy Armada began to move. 3,000 warships advanced toward Earth in perfect formation. They moved like a single living creature, each ship knowing its exact position and purpose. Their weapons powered up, filling nearby space with energy readings that made human sensors flash with warnings. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, High Commander Zethkan watched with satisfaction. His 4 eyes moved across the tactical display, tracking the pathetic human fleet that still held its ground near their planet. 47 ships against 3,000. It was not even a contest. "First wave, begin attack run," he ordered. Destroy their flagship. I want their admiral to die first. 500 Veluxi warships broke from the main formation. They accelerated toward the human line, their weapons charging to full power. In seconds, they would be in range. In minutes, the human fleet would be nothing but burning metal and frozen corpses. Admiral. Catherine Moore stood perfectly still on the bridge of the Endeavor. Around her, officers worked at their stations with practiced calm. They had trained for this moment. They knew what was coming. Enemy first wave approaching, Lieutenant Daniel Perry reported. His voice was steady now. The fear had been replaced by focus. They will be in weapons range in 30 seconds. Catherine nodded. Lisa, are we ready? Commander Lisa Grant looked up from her console. Her finger hovered over a single button. Ready, Admiral. All 17 battle groups confirm ready status. On your command. Catherine took a deep breath. She thought about her grandmother, who had spent her life building ships she would never see fly. She thought about her mother, who had trained the first Ghost Fleet crews. She thought about every person who had sacrificed everything for this moment. Drop the fields, she said. Lisa pressed the button. Throughout the solar system, sensor-scattering fields collapsed. They had been active for decades, hiding humanity's true strength from every scanner in the galaxy. Now they fell like curtains dropping at the end of a play, revealing what had always been there. On the Eternal Conquest, alarm systems exploded into chaos. Sensor technicians screamed in confusion as their displays filled with contacts. Hundreds of contacts. Thousands of contacts. Ships that had not existed seconds ago now appeared everywhere, surrounding the Veluxi armada like wolves circling wounded prey. What is happening? Zefkan roared. He stared at his tactical display, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in shock. Where did these ships come from? His second-in-command, a younger Veluxi named Kethril, worked frantically at his console. High Commander, I am detecting 847 capital ships. Classification unknown. They are larger than anything in our fleet. That is impossible. Zefkan slammed his fist against his command chair. We scanned this system for days. There was nothing there. There is more, Kethril said. His voice was barely a whisper. Support vessels. Over 3,000 of them. Carrier groups launching fighter craft. Weapons platforms activating throughout the asteroid belt. He looked up at his commander with something like fear in his eyes. High Commander, they have more ships than we do. Zefkan's scales had turned pale. His mandibles clicked nervously as he tried to process what he was seeing. The human fleet had not just appeared. It had materialized from nothing, as if the darkness itself had given birth to warships. Recall the first wave, he ordered. All ships hold position. High Commander, I am receiving a communication from the human flagship. Zefkan hesitated. Part of him wanted to refuse, to maintain some shred of dignity in the face of this disaster. But he needed to understand what was happening. He needed answers. Put it through. Admiral Catherine Moore's face appeared on the screen. She looked exactly as she had an hour ago, calm and controlled. But now there was something else in her expression. Something that looked very much like satisfaction. High Commander, she said. I believe we need to talk. Zefkan found his voice with difficulty. What is this? What have you done? I have shown you the truth. Catherine gestured at something off-screen. What you are now seeing is humanity's ghost fleet. We have been building it for 60 years, ever since we learned that the galaxy was full of species who prey on the weak. 60 years? Zefkan's mind struggled to accept this. You have been hiding an entire military force for 60 years? 17 fleets, actually. Each one capable of matching your armada by itself. Catherine's voice was matter-of-fact, as if she were discussing the weather. Your sensors detected our visible fleet because we wanted them to. Those 47 ships were bait, High Commander. They were designed to make species like yours believe we were easy prey. Zeth Khan looked at his tactical display again. The human ships were everywhere now. Massive battleships that dwarfed anything in his fleet. Carriers launching thousands of small fighter craft. Weapons platforms that his sensors could barely analyze. Their technology completely foreign. You tricked us, he said. We prepared, Catherine corrected. There is a difference. We never attacked anyone. We never threatened anyone. We simply made sure that when someone came to attack us, we would be ready. She paused. The Veluxi came to our home with 3,000 warships. You planned to enslave our people and burn our cities. Did you really think we would make it easy for you? The Veluxi commander was silent. His entire worldview was collapsing around him. The Dominion had conquered 17 species. They had never faced a force they could not defeat. They had grown used to victory, comfortable in their power dot. Now they faced something they had never imagined. A species that had prepared for this moment for 6 decades. A species that had hidden its true strength behind a mask of weakness, waiting patiently for the right moment to reveal itself. What happens now? Zeth Khan asked. Catherine's expression hardened. That depends on you. Right now, your fleet is surrounded. Our ships have weapons that your sensors cannot properly analyze. We have also activated minefields throughout the system. Your escape routes are blocked. If you try to run, you will be destroyed. If you try to fight, you will be destroyed. She let those words sink in before continuing. But I am offering you a choice, High Commander. The same choice you offered us 1 hour ago. Surrender. Power down your weapons. Order your fleet to stand down. Zeth Khan's scales rippled with anger. You expect the Veluxi Dominion to surrender to humans? To a species we have never even heard of until today? I expect you to recognize reality, Catherine said firmly. Look at your tactical display. Count our ships. Calculate the firepower we have aimed at your fleet right now. Then ask yourself, is your pride worth the lives of 3,000 crews? The bridge of the eternal conquest was silent. Every officer stared at their commander, waiting for his response. They had all seen the same displays. They all knew how badly they were outmatched. Zeth Khan closed his 4 eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, some of the fire had gone out of them. If I surrender, he said slowly, what guarantee do I have that you will not simply destroy us anyway? None, Catherine admitted. But I give you my word as an officer and as a human being. Surrender peacefully, and your crews will be allowed to return home. The Veluxi Dominion will survive. Continue this attack, and I will have no choice but to respond with everything I have. She leaned forward slightly. High Commander, humanity does not want to be your enemy. We did not build this fleet because we enjoy war. We built it because we had no other choice. The galaxy is dangerous, and we had to be ready to defend ourselves. But we would rather find another way. Zeth Khan stared at her for a long moment. Behind him, Kethril waited nervously. The young officer knew what his commander was thinking. The math was simple. The humans had won before the battle even started. You are asking me to accept defeat, Zeth Khan said quietly. To return home in shame. To tell my emperor that we were beaten by a species of children. I am asking you to accept survival, Catherine replied. Shame is temporary. Death is permanent. Choose wisely, High Commander. The silence stretched between them like a physical thing. Throughout both fleets, thousands of beings waited for the answer that would determine their fate. Finally, Zeth Khan spoke. I will consider your offer. Catherine nodded. You have 1 hour. After that, we will take your silence as rejection. The screen went dark. On the bridge of the Endeavor, no one celebrated. They had won a battle of wills, but the war was not over yet. 1 hour remained. 1 hour for the Veluxi to decide if they would live or die. Admiral Catherine Moore returned to her command chair and sat down heavily. She was tired. The weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders like a physical burden. But she had done what needed to be done. She had shown the galaxy that humanity was not prey. That message would spread far beyond this system, to every species that had ever thought of attacking Earth. The universe would never underestimate humans again. 3 months after the Veluxi surrender, the galaxy was still talking about what had happened. News traveled slowly between star systems, carried by trade ships and diplomatic vessels. But when it arrived, the reaction was always the same: shock, disbelief, fear. The humans had hidden an entire military force for 60 years. They had built technology that exceeded galactic standards. They had faced the Veluxi Dominion, one of the most feared powers in known space, and made them surrender without firing a single shot. Every species that had ever considered attacking Earth quietly revised their plans. Every empire that had thought humans were easy prey suddenly found urgent business elsewhere. Ambassadors who had once ignored human diplomats now waited in line for appointments. Humanity had announced itself to the universe, and the universe was listening. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The immediate danger had passed, and people went back to their daily routines. Children went to school. Workers went to their jobs. Families gathered for meals and talked about ordinary things, but nothing was really ordinary anymore. Everyone knew that something had changed. The planet that had once seemed so small and isolated was now a major player on the galactic stage. Earth was no longer just a home. It was a symbol of what determination and preparation could achieve. Admiral Catherine Moore did not return to normal life. There was too much work to do. She spent weeks negotiating the final terms of the Veluxi surrender. The talks were difficult. The Dominion's leaders were angry and humiliated, and they tried to salvage what they could of their pride. But in the end, they had no real leverage. Their fleet was still surrounded by humanity's ghost fleet. Their choices were limited to accepting human terms or accepting destruction. They accepted the terms. The Veluxi would withdraw from 11 of the 17 species they had conquered. Those peoples would be given their freedom and receive compensation for centuries of exploitation. The Dominion would keep only their original homeworld and its closest colonies. Their military would be limited to defensive ships only. It was harsh, but it was fair. And it sent a message to every other empire in the galaxy. Humanity would not tolerate conquest and slavery. 3 months after the surrender, Catherine sat in her office overlooking San Francisco Bay. The view was beautiful, with sunlight dancing on the water and boats moving slowly across the harbor. It was peaceful, calm, everything she had fought to protect. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she said. The door opened, and a strange figure entered. It was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. A trader. Catherine recognized the species immediately, though she had never met one in person. "Admiral Moore," the trader said in its soft, musical voice. "I am honored to finally speak with you." Catherine stood and offered her hand. The trader looked at it for a moment, then reached out and touched her fingers gently. It was not a handshake, but it was an acknowledgement of respect. "Please, sit down," Catherine said. "I understand the traders rarely make personal visits." "That is true." The trader settled into a chair across from her desk. "We prefer to let others come to us. But what you have done deserves personal recognition. What I have done is follow the advice your people gave us 60 years ago." The trader's large eyes seemed to smile, though its face remained still. "We told you to hide your strength. We expected you to survive. We did not expect you to build a military force capable of challenging the galaxy's greatest powers. Catherine shrugged slightly. Your advice was good. We just applied it in our own way. That is what makes your species so interesting. The trader leaned forward. In all my centuries of travel, I have never encountered a people quite like humanity. You are young, barely out of your cradle world. Yet you have accomplished things that ancient civilizations could not imagine. We had to, Catherine said simply. When you told us what kind of galaxy we lived in, we had only two choices. Become strong enough to survive, or accept that we would eventually be conquered. We chose to survive. Many species make that choice. Few succeed. Maybe we were lucky. Or maybe we were just stubborn. Catherine smiled slightly. Humans are very good at being stubborn. The trader made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. That is clear. Your species hid an entire fleet for 60 years. You kept the secret through 3 generations. Do you know how rare that is? Most civilizations cannot keep a secret for 3 days. We understood what was at stake. When the survival of your species depends on something, you find a way to make it work. They sat in silence for a moment. 2 representatives of very different peoples sharing a quiet understanding. What happens now? The trader asked finally. Your species has announced itself to the galaxy. Many will call you dangerous. They will say that humanity cannot be trusted, that you deceive the entire universe. Catherine nodded. They will. And we will remind them that we never attacked anyone. We never conquered anyone. We simply made sure that no one could conquer us. She paused. If that makes us dangerous, then perhaps the galaxy needs to think about what kind of behavior it rewards. A fair point. The trader stood slowly. Admiral, the traders have survived for 10,000 years by being useful to everyone and threatening to no one. It is a difficult balance. Sometimes I wonder if it is worth the cost. What do you mean? The trader turned to look out the window at the sunlit day. We have watched countless species rise and fall. We have seen civilizations born and destroyed. Through it all, we have remained neutral, trading with all sides, taking no position. Its voice grew softer. But sometimes I wonder what it would be like to stand for something. To have the courage to fight for what you believe in. Catherine joined the trader at the window. It is not easy. Fighting means risking everything. It means accepting that you might lose. But it also means that you get to choose who you are. You get to decide what matters to you. Your species has made that choice clearly. We have. Catherine looked out at the water, thinking about everything that had happened. Humanity chose to be survivors. We chose to protect each other, no matter the cost. And we chose to show the galaxy that the weak are not always as weak as they appear. The trader was silent for a long moment. Then it turned to face her. Admiral Moore, I believe humanity will change this galaxy. Not through conquest or destruction, but through example. You have shown that strength does not require cruelty. That power can be used to protect rather than exploit. It paused. That is a lesson many species need to learn. I hope we can teach it, Catherine said. Without too many more battles. So do I. The trader moved toward the door, then stopped. One more thing, Admiral. The Veluxi are not the only empire that was watching your world. Others have taken notice. Some of them are far more powerful than the Dominion ever was. Catherine felt a chill run down her spine. Are you warning me about something specific? Not yet. But be watchful. The galaxy has many predators, and you have just announced yourself as something other than prey. The trader's large eyes met hers. Your ghost fleet was enough to defeat the Veluxi. It may not be enough for what comes next. With that, the trader left. Catherine stood at the window for a long time after. The sun was setting now. painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Somewhere out there, among the countless stars that would soon appear, other civilizations were watching Earth, some with curiosity, some with fear, and some, perhaps, with hunger. Humanity had won its first great battle, but the war for survival was just beginning. In her heart, Catherine knew that they would face that challenge the same way they had faced all others. With preparation, with unity, with the stubborn determination that had carried humanity through every crisis in its history. The galaxy had mocked humanity's small fleet. The galaxy had learned better, and if new threats came, they would learn the same lesson. Because humanity was not just a young species struggling to survive. Humanity was a species that had looked into the darkness of the universe and refused to be afraid. That was the truth that the Veluxi had discovered. That was the message that would spread across the stars. And that was why, no matter what challenges lay ahead, Catherine Moore believed that humanity would survive. They always had. They always would.